3 days after I came home from the war, my wife handed me divorce papers with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The strange part wasn't the papers, or the other man, or even the packed suitcase by the bed. The strange part was that I felt relieved, like my body already knew this ending before my mind dared to admit it. My name is Ethan Cole, and for 2 years I learned how to survive explosions, anger, and fear without blinking. What I didn't learn was how to survive coming home. I still remember that morning clearly. The house was too clean, like a hotel room nobody had lived in for a while. The curtains were half closed, and the light coming through them felt hesitant, almost apologetic. My wife, Laura, was sitting on the edge of the bed, dressed nicer than usual for a weekday. So nice. That sold babe in my first clue. She kept talking, words tumbling over each other, explaining things I hadn't asked about. The grocery store. The neighbor's dog. A dinner she forgot to mention. When you spend enough time listening for gunfire, you get good at hearing what's underneath silence. He walked over, reached for the curtain, and pulled it open. There it was. A baseball cap, bright green, sitting on my side of the bed like a joke someone forgot to laugh at. She froze. Then she sighed, like someone finally allowed to stop pretending. I was going to tell you, she said softly, already shaking her head, already tired. She pulled a folded envelope from her purse and placed it on the mattress. eBay had this ready for months. He waited for anger to arrive. It never did. Instead, there was this calm, deep and steady, the same calm I felt when mortars fell too close and panic would be gotten me killed. Laura looked at me like she was bracing for a storm, but all she got was clear weather. You okay? She asked, cautious now. I think I am, I said, and I meant it. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that my heart had already cracked open a few days earlier on a train headed nowhere important. And once something breaks like that, the rest doesn't hurt quite as much. It started with a girl I wasn't supposed to meet. He was traveling back to the city to sign paperwork for a job I didn't want, one of those quiet arrangements people make for soldiers so nobody has to ask too many questions. The train was crowded, loud, alive in a way I wasn't anymore. Somewhere between stations, a sudden jolt sent bags sliding and people swearing, and a woman stumbled forward right into my space. We almost kissed. Like, really almost. She smelled like citrus and cold air, and her eyes went wide as she caught herself on my arm. For half a second, time did that weird thing where it stretches thin and fragile, like you could poke a hole through it. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, she said, laughing nervously, already blushing. No worries, I said, steady as always. She rushed back to her seat, and I didn't think much of it until a conductor tapped my shoulder 10 minutes later and asked to see my ticket. He handed it over. From it. This isn't yours. Turns out, in her flustered panic, she grabbed my ticket and left me with hers. By the next stop, I was politely but firmly escorted off the train with my duffel bag and a shrug that said, not my problem. I stood there on the platform, watching the train disappear, thinking about how fitting it was. Wrong place, wrong ticket, wrong laugh. He found a local bus heading vaguely in the right direction. It rattled like it might fall apart at any second, the kind of bus where nobody makes eye contact and everyone pretends the smell don't exist. He was halfway through regretting my choices when she stepped on. Sammy girl. Sammy jacket. Sammy's startled expression when she saw me. No way, she said, pressing a hand to her chest. This is not happening. He laughed. He hadn't laughed like that in a long time. You stole my ticket. She grew a knit, mortified. I swear I was coming back to find you. Her name was Lena Rivera, and she talked like she thought silence was something to be afraid of. She apologized 3 more times before the bus even pulled away, then spent the rest of the ride trying to make it up to me with stories, jokes, observations about strangers that were probably unkind but very accurate. We talked like people who had known each other longer than an hour. Music, cities, the weird things grief does to your appetite. She didn't ask about the war, and I didn't volunteer it. That alone felt like kindness. The bus slowed down halfway through the route when 2 guys got on, loud and already annoying, the kind of men who confuse confidence with volume. There were plenty of empty seats, but they chose the ones right next to Lena. Too close. Too deliberate. She shifted uncomfortably, gave polite half-smiles that didn't working. One of them leaned in, said something I couldn't hear, and she stiffened. Hey, I said calmly, standing up. Sis not interested. They laughed, looked me over, decided I wasn't worth respecting. One of them shoved my shoulder. He stepped back, redirected his momentum, nothing dramatic, just enough to remind him gravity works both ways. The driver didn't see it that way. Next thing I knew, I was off the bus again, standing in a cloud of dust, watching Lena's face pressed to the window, guilt written all over it. That sold babe in the end of it. It wasn't it. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, and there she was, bracelets, hair blown wild by the wind. I got off, she said, like that explained everything. You didn't have to. I know, she said quietly. But I wanted to. That was when the cracks started to show. We walked along the road, nowhere special, just open land and a sky that felt too big for both of us. She grew quieter, her jokes fading out like a song losing signal. Finally, she stopped walking. I don't even know why I'm telling you this, she said, staring at the ground. You're basically a stranger. Sometimes that helps, I said. Her shoulders shook before she started crying. Lena told me about the baby. About the man who disappeared. About her family, old money and older rules, and a father who loved her deeply but only in the ways he understood. If he found out, she said, it would destroy him. And her. When she finished, there was nothing left but the sound of the wind. He thought about Laura. About unopened letters. About coming home to a house that didn't miss me. I might have an idea, I said slowly, surprising both of us. She looked up, eyes red. I'm listening. And that was the moment everything shifted. The moment I stepped into a story that wasn't supposed to be mine, and somehow became the place where I finally learned what home could feel like. I didn't pitch the idea like it was heroic or clever. I didn't even pretend it was foolproof. I just said it out loud, quietly, like you do when you're not entirely sure you believe yourself yet. What if, I said, you didn't go home alone? Lena looked at me like Ida suggested robbing a bank with spoons. You mean, what if I brought someone with me, she said slowly, someone who looked convincing enough to make my family stop asking questions. Someone temporary, I added. Someone who leaves the next morning with a letter and a story that makes sense. She laughed, sharp and humorless. No one would do that for me. I shrugged. I might. She studied my face for a long time. Didn't they try to fill the silence? Eventually she exhaled, long and shaky. You don't even know me. I know what it's like to be alone in a room full of people who are supposed to love you, I said. That's enough. The drive to her family's place took most of the afternoon. The land changed slowly, cities thinning out into rolling hills and then into rows and rows of grapevines that stretched so far they looked unreal, like something painted onto the earth. Lena stared out the window the whole time, quiet now, fingers tracing circles on the glass. That's it, she said when we turned onto a dirt road lined with old stone markers. That's home. Her family estate wasn't flashy, not the way money sometimes wants to be. It was old. Confident. The kind of place that didn't need to prove anything anymore. The house sat at the center of the vineyard like it had grown there naturally, walls warm with sun, shutters faded just enough to show age without decay. We didn't get a chance to rehearse much. I took a chocolate bar out of my bag, the good kind, wrapped it carefully in the gold paper. This'll have to be the ring, I said. She smiled despite herself. That's either incredibly romantic or deeply embarrassing. Probably both. Her father appeared first, stepping out from between the vines like they'd been summoned by instinct alone. Gabriel Rivera had a face carved by weather and responsibility, eyes sharp enough to weigh a person in seconds. He looked at me, then at Lena, then back at me. Who is this? He asked, already displeased. Lena didn't hesitate. This is Ethan. My husband. The word landed heavy in my chest. Gabriel's jaw tightened. You married without telling us? Yes, she said. I did. He said nothing more, just turned and walked toward the house. Lena's mother, Isabel, followed moments later, wiping her hands on an apron, smiling like she'd been waiting for this exact moment her whole life. Oh, she said warmly, pulling Lena into a hug. You brought him. Then there was her grandfather. Rafael Rivera didn't come out in a hurry. He appeared slowly, leaning on a cane polished smooth by decades of use. His eyes landed on me, curious rather than judgmental. So, he said, extending a hand. You're the one. He shook it. I guess I am. Ismail. Good. Dinner's almost ready. That night felt like walking through someone else's dream. Candlelight, laughter, plates passed hand to hand. Isabel asked how we met. Lena started the story, stumbled halfway through, and I picked it up without missing a beat, inventing details on instinct alone. A summer festival. A missed train. A shared sandwich. Rafael nodded along like he already knew all of it. Gabriel barely spoke. When he did, it was pointed. "You don't look like family," he said at one point. "I wasn't born into much," I replied evenly. "That's obvious." Lena reached for my hand under the table. He squeezed back, surprised at how natural it felt. Later, when the house grew quiet, Isabel showed us to the main bedroom. "It's tradition," she said gently. "Newlyweds stay here their first night." She kissed Lena's cheek, gave me a look that was half warning, half blessing, and left us alone. He laid my blanket on the floor immediately. "This is fine," I said. Eve slept worse places. Lena watched me for a second. "You don't have to punish yourself." "I'm not." She hesitated, then asked softly, "Would you ever marry someone who was carrying another man's child?" The question hung between us, raw and unguarded. "If I loved her," I said after a moment, "I would." There was a knock at the door. Gabriel's voice. We scrambled, climbed into bed, arms awkwardly around each other, pretending intimacy we hadn't earned. He stepped in, glanced at the rumpled sheets, said a stiff goodnight, and left. Neither of us moved for a long time. Eventually, exhaustion won. He slept. And dreamed. Wild dreams. Fear. Noise. The kind of terror that doesn't fade with waking. Almost made a sound, because suddenly Lena was there, grounding me, hand steady on my arm. "You're safe," she whispered. "You're here." Outside, boughs rang. Frost. The vineyard was in danger, cold settling fast and lethal. Everyone moved at once, lighting burners, waving fans, running through the rows like a coordinated storm of humanity. He joined without thinking, coughing through smoke, fumbling until Lena showed me how to move with the rhythm. In the glow of the flames, she looked unreal, hair lit gold, face focused and strong. Gabriel watched me from a distance. Something shifted in his eyes. By morning, the frost was gone. The vines had survived. Rafael took me walking at dawn, through the rows, up a small hill where a single ancient vine grew, thick and twisted. "This," he said, touching it reverently, "is where everything started." "You were an orphan, Jess." "Jess. Not anymore." Something inside me cracked open then, quietly, completely. He stayed. Harvest season came, laughter returned. Gabriel challenged me wordlessly in the fields. He lost. Ismail. Used barely. But love has rules. And I had crossed enough lines. That night, music drifted through the courtyard. Rafael handed me a guitar. "If she lights the lamp," he said, "she's choosing you." He played. Sang. Said everything I couldn't say with words. Lena listened from the window. Then I walked away. Because sometimes loving someone means leaving before you break them. He thought leaving would make everything quieter. That's the lie we tell ourselves, that distance is some kind of medicine, that if you walk away clean enough the ache will follow rules and fade on schedule. What actually happened was simpler and worse. The silence just got louder. He went back to the city, back to the life that had already stopped fading. Laura was there when I opened the door, standing too close to the neighbor, laughing too hard at nothing. She handed me the divorce papers like we were finishing a chore we'd both been avoiding. "No hard feelings," she said, and meant it in the shallow way people do when they've already left. He sang. Not because I was brave. Because I was empty. A week later, I found myself driving back toward the vineyard without really deciding to. Some part of me knew before I did. The road felt familiar now, like a sentence he'd already read once and needed to finish. He arrived just as voices rose near the house. Gabriel was shouting, sharp and furious, words cutting through the warm afternoon air. He barely had time to understand what was happening before the smell hit me. Smoke. An old lamp had fallen in the storage shed, flames already climbing greedily, fed by dry wood and old memories. People ran. Water sloshed uselessly against heat that didn't take care. Feet moved like it had intention, like it knew exactly what it wanted. It didn't think. It ran. The vineyard burned fast, rows of vines collapsing into crackling ruin. He saw Gabriel standing there, frozen, watching 4 centuries of work unravel in minutes. Lena was shouting his name, trying to pull him back, tears streaking ash across her face. Something inside him finally broke. I was afraid, he said hoarsely, to no one and everyone. Afraid of losing you. Afraid of failing this family. Didn't they know how to love you without holding on too tight? Lena stepped into his arms, held him while everything else fell apart. At dawn, the fire was gone. What it left behind looked like the end of a story you don't want to finish. Blackened ears. Twisted remains. Silence so thick it pressed against the chest. Raphael walked slowly through the ruins, then stopped at the hill. The root, he said. He grabbed a shovel. Back until my hands blistered. And there it was, buried deep, scarred but alive. A single living vine, stubborn as truth. It's still breathing, Gabriel whispered. So are we, Raphael said. That was the moment something shifted for good. Not magically. Not neatly. But honestly. Rebuilding didn't happen fast. It happened in small, aching steps. Hands in dirt. Shared meals. Long talks that didn't try to solve everything at once. Gabriel learned to listen. Lena learned she didn't have to disappear to be loved. And I learned that sometimes home isn't a place you're born into, but one you earn by staying when it's hardest. Weeks later, harvest music returned, softer but steadier. The town gathered, not for a wedding, not for celebration exactly, but for resilience. 4. The simple fact that the Rivera vineyard still stood, even in fragments. Gabriel stood beside me, cleared his throat. This man, he said, was rough, chose us when he didn't have to. That matters. Lena found me near the old hill that evening, sunset bleeding gold into the sky. You came back, she said. I never really left. She smiled, tears in her eyes, and for the first time there were no conditions hanging between us. No lies. No borrowed roles. Used two people standing in the aftermath, choosing forward. Some love stories don't end with fireworks. Some may end with dirt under fingernails, forgiveness spoken late, and hope that looks fragile until you realize how strong it actually is. That's what this was. Not a fantasy. A rebuilding. And if you've ever loved someone imperfectly, or left too soon, or stayed too long, you probably know what I mean. If this story moved you even a little, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Tell me in the comments what part stayed with you, or what you would be done differently. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late to start again. And thank you, truly, for staying with me until the end. If you've stayed with me through this story, thank you. Someone in your life changed you like this, tell me about them in the comments. This story moved you, share it with someone who needs it. And if you believe love can make us grow up without hardening us, let me know. Thanks for listening.